For decades, the name TopShop was a British institution. For millions, shopping there was a genuine rite of passage. It provided the uniform for teenage years, the outfit for a first disastrous job interview, the muddy shorts for a first festival. It was the place people went to grab a piece of the action, to feel like they were part of something. And then, 2020 happened. Forget a quiet, dignified closure. This was a full-blown, spectacular front-page news implosion. An absolute public humiliation. The brand that defined an entire generation was gone. The giant flagship shop on Oxford's Circus became a 90,000 square foot ghost. A sad, empty monument to a bygone era. So, what in the world happened? This is the wild, dramatic, and unbelievable story of the death and resurrection of TopShop. How did the undisputed king of high street fashion faceplant so hard it left a crater? And how did it pull off the most unlikely comeback in modern fashion? To understand the crash, it's essential to understand the high. TopShop started way back in 1964, originating as a tiny section in the basement of a Sheffield department store. Its mission was simple: young fashion. This concept, however, was revolutionary. It was essentially fast fashion, decades before the term even existed. The idea was an immediate runaway hit. By the 90s, TopShop and its menswear arm Topman had grown far beyond its origins as a simple shop and had transformed into a full-blown cultural phenomenon. And the heart of this entire empire was the Oxford Circus flagship. It's important to understand the sheer scale of this place. It was a 90,000 square foot, 5-floor fashion behemoth so significant it was literally listed as a London tourist attraction. 400,000 people walked through its doors every single week. The shopping experience itself was famously loud and high energy. DJs spun live sets from a booth overlooking the floor. Shoppers could get their nails done at a super cool Wah Nails concession, then grab a cupcake at the in-store cafe. The floors were packed with celebrities, fashion editors, and tourists all trying to find their size. It was a place people went to be seen just as much as they went to shop. This was the epicenter of cool Britannia. TopShop became a powerful trendsetter, making its own styles instead of just copying the runways. It felt edgy, it felt cool, and it felt like London. So, how does an empire that big, that dominant, just die? Well, while TopShop was busy building its physical palaces and polishing its Fashion Week credentials, a new threat was brewing from laptops all over the country. A new breed of digital native brands like ASOS, Boohoo, and Missguided was emerging. These online-only companies were faster, significantly cheaper, and were born to dominate the internet. These new rivals had a deep understanding of Instagram, influencers, and the whole video format, which they practically invented. They could micro-target shoppers with an ad for a dress they knew they just looked at 5 minutes ago. Their test and repeat model was revolutionary. They could spot a trend on social media, design a dress, make a tiny batch, and have it for sale in just 2 weeks. If that batch sold out, they'd immediately produce thousands more. TopShop, meanwhile, was still relying on its giant shop windows and the occasional magazine ad. It was analog in a digital world. Its website was clunky and buggy, a frustrating mess from 2005. Compounding all of these external market problems was a growing issue with the company's leadership and public perception. That problem was centered on Sir Philip Green, the so-called King of the High Street. Green had bought TopShop's parent company, Arcadia, back in 2002, and for a while, he was hailed as a retail genius. But then, his public reputation took a severe hit. The BHS scandal proved to be the most damaging event. Green had owned the beloved department store BHS for 15 years. In 2015, he sold it for just £1 to a man with no retail experience and a history of bankruptcy. Only a year later, BHS collapsed, leaving 11,000 people jobless and revealing a £571 million hole in its pension fund. That massive pension deficit represented the actual retirement money for thousands of loyal elderly staff. At the same time, photographs of Green on his new £100 million super yacht, the Lionheart, were widely published. This widespread negative association from the BHS scandal inevitably began to tarnish TopShop itself. Shoppers were becoming far more aware of ethical issues, and unfortunately for TopShop, it became permanently linked to the image of its billionaire owner, a picture that stood in stark contrast to the plight of the abandoned BHS pensioners. TopShop's foundations were starting to crumble. And then, in 2020, COVID-19 happened. The pandemic acted as the final, brutal, unforgiving executioner. The national lockdowns forced all non-essential retail to shut down, and just like that, TopShop's entire business model evaporated overnight. Its dangerous reliance on physical footfall meant the cash tap was turned off almost completely. With no shoppers, there was no money, making it impossible to pay rent or suppliers. In November 2020, the Arcadia Group officially collapsed into administration. 13,000 jobs were on the line. The flagship on Oxford Circus, that icon of British fashion, was locked up for good. It was the end. Or was it? In February 2021, a buyer emerged, and the name was a genuine shock. ASOS. The very online giant that had helped seal TopShop's fate acquired the brand for £265 million. The terms of the deal, however, were what truly signaled the end of an era for the British HighStreet. ASOS bought the brand name, the intellectual property, and all the remaining stock. Crucially, the deal included none of the physical shops. As a direct result, every single TopShop location was closed permanently. This move gutted the HighStreet and made thousands of dedicated retail staff redundant overnight. TopShop's transformation was complete. It was now officially just another tab on the ASOS website. For a while, the brand's identity seemed to vanish. The brand was completely absorbed and lost in the void of a larger platform, reducing it to just another product line. But then, ASOS's new bosses realized there was value to the name they paid £265 million for. They launched the 2024 to 2025 reboot, and this is where it gets really good. ASOS invested heavily in a brand new independent design team to completely revitalize the TopShop brand. This team is tasked with bringing back the original quality and sharpening the focus on so-called hero products, the beloved jeans section, and the signature leather jackets and cool tailoring. The entire push is to make TopShop design-led again and restore its premium feel. The brand is also smartly pivoting its target audience. The new focus is on a broader 18 to 40-year-old demographic, tapping into the people who grew up with TopShop, who still have that warm, fuzzy nostalgia, and now have actual adult money to spend. But here's the bit no one saw coming. TopShop is back on the high street. ASOS realized that a fashion brand still needs to be seen and experienced in the real world. The new strategy recognized the importance of the physical shopping moment, the ability for customers to touch the denim, try on the jacket, and have that crucial in-person discovery. So, they ran an experiment in the US. They put little TopShop boutiques inside Nordstrom department stores, and it was a huge success. It drove new, young shoppers into Nordstrom, and it made TopShop feel real and premium again. And now, they're doing the exact same thing in the UK. This new physical strategy began with a super chic, highly curated pop-up in the prestigious Liberty of London, which was quickly followed by a massive deal with John Lewis. This strategic partnership placed the resurrected fashion brand inside one of the UK's most trusted and established department stores. John Lewis, which has a reputation for being a bit sleepy, suddenly gets a massive injection of cool to pull in younger shoppers. Meanwhile, TopShop gets a prime physical nationwide presence in hundreds of shops with almost zero risk. TopShop is back, but it's a totally new beast. It's leaner, smarter, and it's a digital-first hybrid that has learned its lesson. It's the convenience of ASOS's online power mixed with the real-world premium feel of a John Lewis concession. But what do you reckon? Can this new TopShop 2.0 recapture the magic? Or will TopShop forever be that brand my mum used to wear? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed the video, give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and tap the bell so you don't miss any more proper deep dives like this one. Cheers for watching, and we'll catch you next time.